Hello, I will talk about agent-neutral rules and agent-neutral reasons and their relationships with particular reference to Tomasello's work about how social cognition shapes the normative infrastructure of cooperation. Tomasello holds an ambitious view according to which the psychological infrastructure of cooperation grounds agent-neutral reasons in the understanding of agent-neutral rules and related normative expectations. The socio-cognitive capacities that are required for that are characteristics of what is required to participate in a joint action and a shared agency. That is representing a joint goal and complementary roles in a single format where individual intentions are derived from irreducibly joint or collective intentions. This can be unpacked in three sub-capacities, say. Recursive mind reading, so the capacity to attribute to others the attribution of mental state to ourselves, so like I believe that you believe that I believe that P, and so on. Self-other equivalence connected with agent-neutral roles, so the idea that each agent within joint action is equivalent to any other, and that anyone can take up any other roles in a joint action, and the idea that such an agent-neutral roles understanding is linked to the capacity for role reversal, which is in turn connected with the recursive mind reading. So the idea that we can exchange our roles indefinitely within a joint action. There is a second element concerning pro-social motivation, but I won't go into that here, so I will skip this. The building blocks of the theory are also well known. First is that humans live in a social ontology where reasons are pervasive and are conceived by humans as underlying behavioral patterns displayed by social practice. That is, they ground normative expectations connected with norms governing entitlement, commitments, and early kind of moral norms that goes along with joint action practices and later on the building of social institutions. The idea of a minimal commitment, which is more simple than the full-blown concept of commitment found in moral philosophy, like the idea of commitment we find in Scanlon's view or in Coast Guard moral philosophy. And this minimal commitment is just a sense that connect motivation and expectation toward action required to reach some others or some shared goals that can be credited also to very young children. In this sense, children respond to reason in collaborative activities in a very simple way that involves a minimal commitment, minimal idea of commitment. And third, the idea that there are agent-neutral entitlements and commitments connected with the roles we play within a joint action, which are grounded on social normative expectation towards one's own and others' action connected with the agent-neutral roles we play within a joint action. Actually, Tomasello's idea is that very young children don't really grasp full-blown idea of agent neutrality, but this is a minor issue here. The basic claim in Tomasello's view is that normative thinking depends on social cognition for the reason we've just seen. because it relates to normative social expectation, agent neutral roles, and so on. Second, that normative thinking depends on self-other equivalence for the same reason, connected with agent neutral representation of actions and role. And third, that understanding agent neutral roles enable agent neutral reason, enable understanding and endorsing agent neutral reason. This capacity develops smoothly, according to Tomasello, from second personal joint action to large-scale cooperation that entails really a sense of objectivity of thought and principle. The route to full-blown collective intentionality, social cognition, and agent neutral reasons is like that. First, we have a shared intentionality that is second personal and based on a second personal self-other equivalence connected with early joint action, where both equivalence between self and other and the related self-monitoring and governance are relative to significant others, to the others with which actual interactions take place. And this develops to collective intentionality involving a group-related self-other equivalence and social self-monitoring and governance that is relative to generic others, that is, to anyone that would be one of us, one member of the group. So the mechanism that enables such spending is a cultural conventionalization, which enables cultural practices and the creation of cultural, what Tomasello calls cultural group minds. Cultural group minds, in this sense, are the source of objective normativity, and objective normativity of agent neutral reasons can be traced back to the development of social cognition and the related understanding of agent neutrality, both concerning roles and reasons, from early form of joint action and shared intentionality to full-blown collective intentionality and group-mindedness. Sorry. Now, it is questionable that this generates agent neutral reasons because we intentions do not display a third personal but a plural first personal, we-centric representation of actions and goals. What Tomasello calls agent neutral reasons here are really group agent relative reason. This shows in many ways. So Tomasello talk of perspective conveys the idea of a we-centric representation of action and goal in the first person plural rather in the third personal agent neutral sense. The justification of judgment, like true and false, right or wrong, is traced back to collective normative thinking according to community standards. And so objectivity seems to be given a communitarian twist. How we think and how we do things get objectivized into how things are and ought to be. This is not what Nagel had in mind when he developed the idea of agent neutrality. According to Nagel, as is well known, every reason is a predicate R, such as for all person P and events A. If R is true of A, then P has a prima facie reason to promote A. So agent neutral reasons are predicates with no free agent variable P or no pro-nominal back reference, according to Petit formulation, built in the predicate. For instance, agent neutral reasons are like for any P, for any A, if A will make someone happy, then P has a reason to promote A, and agent relative reasons are like for any P, for any A, if A will make P's friend happy, then P has a reason to promote A. Now, group reasons in this sense are agent relative, because to act as a member of a group is to act on individual intentions derived from group intentions expressed by the first person plural we J. So for instance, for any P, for any A, if A is required as part of a J, a joint action performed by a group G, and that P is a member of G, then P has a reason to A. Or in another formulation, for any P, for any A, if A conforms to P's group norms and values and P is a member of G, then P has a reason to A. In both cases, P's reasons are relative to the group to which is member. Now, how to find a way out from that? Tomasello sketches two ways out. So first, backdate agent neutrality to early second personal joint action, which is too demanding because it credits young children with objective norms and commitment, and also conflicts anyway with the context sensitivity of early mind reading. As said, Tomasello is ambiguous on that. Sometimes it credits children with a sense for agent neutrality. In other occasions, tell us that at least a full-blown sense of agent neutrality is only acquired at the second step, so at the level of collective intentionality. But in both ways, this is connected with a group mindedness. The second way out is what Tomasello in late works develops, connect agent neutrality to collective intentionality, as I said. This is too limited because it credits non-committed into cultural group minds, and so conflates conventional social norms with moral norms. Also, another objection is that it overlooks infra-group normative conflicts, so the fact that groups are not homogeneous, groups are divided and conflictual. So it's hard to see how there is a solid sense of norm objectivity that is related to the group. And also, second, it does not match intergroup normative conflicts, so it tells nothing on how to solve conflicts about norms among groups. So it looks like it is not very objective. Finally, it overlooks the possibility that children's belief about groups are part of a more abstract understanding of how social groups work that goes beyond their experience as member of a particular group. This suggests that there may be a third way out, a third way to understand how to go out of that, which involves dropping the idea that cultural conventionalization is the crucial developmental step. So the idea is that it is important to see here how the theory of mind develops. So there are two standard ways to understand that. One involves modularism and is not very popular because it looks like linguistic experience plays a role in acquiring a theory of mind that goes well beyond facilitating and attuning early capacities. And also, it looks like early mind reading is very different from mature mind reading. It is a more popular view is that there are the social cognition can be unpacked into a two-system account. There is a first system one, which is context-sensitive, tracks relational attitudes, and it's develops early, is implicit, fast, limited in the flexibilities, non-conceptual, non-representational, and so on. And system 2 that involves reasoning about beliefs and comes later is probably explicit or can be explicit. It's slow, flexible, conceptual, representational, and so on. And the issue is, how does system 2 develop if not on Tomasello's culturalistic view? So some people credit pragmatics an important role in allowing the development of social cognition. I find it dubious because pragmatics, at least in a standard Gricean sense, presupposes mind reading rather than explaining that. There is a new pragmatist view about the role of language that is very similar, very close to Tomasello's own view, and according to which there is a social route from reasoning to representing that drives acquiring a sense of objectivity and full-blown social cognition. Is a view developed by Brandon, Hutto, Setne, and so on. And I won't go into details here because what I'm interested to is that whether there is an alternative to this pragmatist view that has basically the same communitarian implication of Tomasello's view. And the third way, what I find interesting is that the development of theory of mind and full-blown social cognition is connected with a syntax of sentential complementation, which recruits early capacity for social cognition connected with joint action, with the early forms of joint action, to the acquisition of a full-blown social cognitive capacity involving a theory of mind and reasoning about propositional attitudes. This is because sentential complementation enables managing that clause that are connected with common propositional attitude for psychology. Advantages of such view are explanatory economy, because it accounts for both convergence and limited developmental variation across people. It explained the correlation between language acquisition and development of theory of mind, and it is consistent with syntactic accounts of structured proposition, and with the idea that language is for structuring thought rather than for communicating, which is developed by King, Hinsard, and Bart Chomsky. So how does the story goes? The idea is that the syntax of sentential complementation enable acquiring a representational theory of mind connected with the matter of social cognition and the attribution of propositional attitude that conveys the idea of an objective truth and falsity, because it can be detached from the context and virtually attributed to anyone beyond group membership. And this is connected with the thin concept of person, where a person being a person only involves, or being credited with being a person only involves a sense of mindness, to be the subject of self-ascribed propositional attitudes, and general intentional psychology and agency. So if with these two elements we can account for how or for what a generalized sense of self-other equivalence actually is, because that goes beyond group membership, and the equivalence that marks off early joint action can be thought to generalize into a fully general conception of oneself as just one among others, according to Nagel, Nagel's view of persons. This enables generalized cooperation because once agents manage such concept of persons and propositional attitude psychology that is fully general, agent can generalize the conditions under which intentionality can be shared and cooperate in totally anonymous setting that go beyond group membership and cultural group-mindedness. And we can conjecture that parallel shift occur in practical reasoning, enabling a capacity for reflective decentering that in turn give access to agent-neutral reasons. So the development of capacity to understand and endorse agent-neutral reasons is much more connected with the development of propositional attitude for psychology, which is connected with representational theory mind, connected in turn with the acquisition of the syntax of sentential complementation, rather than depending on cultural conventionalizations and cultural parochial group-mindedness. There is more to be said about that, but the interesting point is that although this detach agent neutrality from the both early joint action and group-mindedness, or cultural group-mindedness at least, still the suggestion can be maintained that agent-neutral reasons emerge from the psychological infrastructure of cooperation as it scales beyond group membership and connect with the fully developed social cognition. There is here a very simple recipe for agent neutrality. I won't go into that. We can discuss it when times come. Thank you very much.